Big 24 hours in football, not just UK football, but world football. Pochettino leaves Spurs last night, and then over breakfast this morning, the news comes through that Mourinho has been appointed as the new manager at Tottenham. Two massive names, and Tottenham are now a massive club, so this will reverberate around the world. Pochettino's done an unbelievable job at Tottenham. 5 years, he's established them at the top table of European football. His ability to develop a successful side, a successful playing style, to develop players within that, to recruit and blend the right players into that group, to lead the club from a PR perspective as an example to set to everyone else in the organisation, the people he's brought into the club in terms of his backroom staff. All of that has contributed to where Tottenham are today. Champions League finalists, serial Champions League qualifiers, all done on a limited budget when you compare what he's had to play with the other clubs, the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United, Chelsea, Manchester City. His net spend is, I think, is something like 100 million in 5 years, which is just an incredible job. You could argue he hasn't won trophies. I think that's a valid point, and it's something that I'm sure he would look to put right in his career moving forward. But I would forgive him that because of just what he's achieved. When he went to Tottenham, they were a basket case from a football point of view. May have been run well off the pitch, but on the pitch they had no real identity. They still had that soft touch kind of reputation about them that had endured since the 80s, since the Hoddle Waddle Ardiles days, really, when they were entertainers, but really didn't have that ability to do it on a consistent basis, didn't have that backbone about them. And Pochettino has brought that, as well as some fantastic football principles and some fantastic football and results as a result of that fantastic football. They now have a spine, they now have a backbone because of that man. So for me, he's done an incredible job. I think he sets a great example to anyone in the game in terms of how to conduct yourself. He has passion, he has a big pair of balls, but he's respectful. He is clearly a decent human being, and I respect him immensely. Mourinho, in my opinion, is one of the greatest managers that's ever lived. His last two appointments, you could pick the bones out of them and you'd find a lot of skeletons, I guess. The Chelsea, the second spell at Chelsea was phenomenally successful in his second season, and then went very bad very quickly because of, in my opinion, a combination of him not adapting to the culture of modern players and the way that modern players need to be treated, and also the fact he's got an incredibly divisive personality. The Manchester United job, I felt he didn't put major problems that were very clear, that were clearly evident. I didn't think he put them to bed throughout the spell. I don't think he ever found a style of play and a team identity that was in his image. He felt like he was constantly searching for a solution and never quite got there. At the same time, he also acted, in my opinion, in a slightly strange way. Again, he's a divisive personality. Very, very entertaining for the world, the watching world. But when you're leading an organisation and you're there to manage players and inspire players and inspire the people around you who are working with you, you could ask a few question marks, I guess, about the way he went about things. However, he still won trophies. He's a winner. He is a serial winner, and he will win trophies at Tottenham. I'm adamant he will win trophies at Tottenham because he's a fantastic winning manager. Whether or not he creates a legacy and leaves a legacy behind him, I doubt. That's not usually how he works. But what I would say is that Sky Sports did an interview with him a few months ago, and whilst it was a big PR stunt, probably all part of the process of him leading to his appointment, I guess, in some respects, in terms of paving the way for conversations with potential employers, it did feel to me like he'd reflected on the way that he had worked in the last two jobs, and he'd recognised and acknowledged that the game is changing and that he probably needs to adapt a little bit. So whilst the fundamentals, I'm sure, will be there, he'll be very, very organised, very tactically astute. He will have that arrogance and that confidence about him, and he'll have that box office personality in press conferences. I've got a funny feeling like he will have learned a little bit, and he will adapt the way he works with players and the way he looks to develop a team mentality. But let's see, I think he'll be successful there. Final thing to say, Manchester United as a football club is the one club that should be doing everything that they can in their power to go out and get Mauricio Pochettino. If there's a modern day equivalent of Alex Ferguson in terms of strength of personality, of backbone, of presence, I think it's Pochettino. I think he has the footballing knowledge and the respect of the rest of the world. I think he has the personality and the intelligence to develop relationships with people in the dressing room, in the football club and outside the football club in the same way that Ferguson did over time. Maybe not with quite the same iron rod that Ferguson kind of ruled with, but he still has that steely personality. I think he can take that football club and impress the investors, the business people, the stakeholders outside the club, and more importantly the players, much more than anyone else in world football. If you compare what Pochettino could do with Manchester United Football Club with what I think at the moment Solskjaer is doing, with all due respect to him and to his staff, I only see them as a temporary solution. And if I was Ed Woodward and the Glazers now, my sole focus would be on getting Mauricio Pochettino into Manchester United Football Club. I'm not a United fan. I have no emotional investment in that. For me, it's the best fit. Very, very clear to me. I don't see any other club in world football that would benefit from appointing Mauricio Pochettino in the same way that Manchester United would. Let's see what happens.